So today, the Biden administration announced their investment of $3.2 billion from the American Rescue Plan as part of the COVID-19 antiviral development strategy. It's a whole of government effort aimed at developing the next generation of COVID-19 treatments, as well as preparing us for future threats. Next slide. The program is called the Antiviral Program for Pandemics, and it aims to catalyze the development of new medicines to combat COVID-19, and importantly, to prepare for other pandemic threats. And what do I mean by that latter statement? Next slide. There are few treatments that exist for many of the viruses that have what we call pandemic potential. I'm showing on this slide family of viruses that do, in fact, have potential to evolve into a pandemic, such as the paramyxoviruses with Nipah, the bunyaviruses with hemorrhagic fevers. We're very familiar with the coronaviruses, what we're dealing with right now. Next slide. So what is the rationale and the goals for this program? Of course, as we've heard so often now over the last several briefings, vaccines clearly remain the centerpiece of our arsenal against COVID-19. However, antivirals can and are an important complement to existing vaccines, especially for individuals with certain conditions that might put them at a greater risk. For those whom vaccines may not be as protective, we know that there are many people who are immunosuppressed, in which vaccines, at least initially, may not give an optimal response. And it also adds a line of defense against other unexpected emerging things like variants of concern that we are currently dealing with, including the variants that we'll be discussing a little bit later. This program is going to bring together leading scientists from academia as well as industry to accelerate the development of new antivirals. And as I mentioned, it's also going to target other viruses of pandemic potential. Can I have the next slide? It has two major pillars to the program: development and discovery. The development is the more immediate activity. In other words, it's going to accelerate the clinical testing of promising antiviral medicines that are already in various stages of development, including clinical trial. Things like the Pfizer protease inhibitor, the Atia Roche RNA polymerase inhibitor, the Merck mutagenic nucleoside, molnupiravir, and others that are in that pipeline. So it's to be accelerating things that are already in process. The other pillar is discovery. And this is very important because this is modeled after the highly successful program developed decades ago for the targeted development of antiretroviral drugs for HIV, which have led to transforming therapies to control HIV, namely discovering new antiviral medications. Next slide. The program looks like this. It's a total, as I mentioned, of $3.2 billion. There'll be $500 million for fundamental research and laboratory support, $1 billion for preclinical and clinical evaluation, $700 million for the development and manufacturing through NIH in our usual partnership with BARDA, and $1 billion to support the creation of a program which we are calling the Antiviral Drug Discovery Centers for pathogens of pandemic concern, meaning not only COVID-19, but some of the families I showed you on a prior slide. And on the last slide, what are the next steps? We're going to continue engaging with manufacturers in the development part of it to accelerate the testing and authorization of promising meds which are in later stage development. In this regard, we're going to continue to identify and evaluate additional candidates for this program support. With regard to discovery, we're going to support academic industry partnerships aimed at discovering new molecules. So we have a great deal of optimism that this program will ultimately be as successful as the highly successful program that we had implemented both for HIV and for hepatitis C. With that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Walensky.